Hi guys, welcome back to ModCons. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh my goodness, today we've got a special day. We have a guest. Tell us all about him. So today we are joined by Festus Akinbusoye.
That's good.
Thank you.
That's very
Thank you
good.
so much. Thank you
I'm
so
very
much.
impressed.
Good start.
Great start. Great start.
Nailed it. Festus served as Police and Crime Commissioner for Bedfordshire from 2021 to 2024. He's been an active member of the Conservative Party for over a decade, working as a senior parliamentary assistant to 3 Milton Keynes MPs. He's also stood as the parliamentary candidate in the 2015 election and the 2023 Mid Beds by-election.
I don't have to talk about that. No,
There's
something to forget.
March. Also been chairman of Milton Keynes from 2018 to 2021. Festus, you've literally done it all.
You have.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolute pleasure, and I'm glad to be the burger in between the baps.
Sandwich.
Am I a sausage or burger? Which one would it be?
The burger.
Okay, I'll be the burger between the baps. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Burger.
Oil thrown between roses, but there you go.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, that
could
works.
be, could be.
that works. Okay, so I'll get us started. So born in Lagos, Festus, you came to the UK in the early 90s and settled in the good old East End of London.
Yeah.
You later stood as a parliamentary candidate in West Ham. How was standing for Parliament for the first time, and what made you want to do it?
So, I mean, the being in West Ham was quite a thrill in the sense that I grew up in Newham. Right, I went to school in Tower Hamlets, neighboring, and then college in Maidavale, not too far from here, and then uni in South. And so I kind of went all over the place, but being able to come back to West Ham, where I grew up,
yeah,
it felt like coming back home, but it still really didn't feel like I went away from home. But the chance of winning that was going to be very, very minimal. I mean, that is the Labour Republic, of England. In fact, all of the 60 councillors they had at the time, literally every single one of them were Labour.
Wow.
And Lynn Brown, who's now in the House of Lords, we became, we got on quite well. But the great thing about being in an environment where people no one expected you to win is the opportunity to cause mischief.
Yes, I like that.
And it was great fun. Shout out to Tim Roll Pickering, who was my partner in crime. And one of the things that I actually did that I'm very proud of, apart from achieving the highest ever votes for Conservative candidate in West Ham at that point, was I secured the first ever asset of community value protection order in Newham ever.
Wow.
Robin Wales, who was the mayor at the time, was not happy.
Yeah, I bet.
Because they were going to close down a youth community center.
Yeah.
That I think was mostly the Hindu community they used, and they've been there for decades. And they were going to shut it down and build a block of flats there. And I learned about this thing called the ACV, and we put in a bin outside with Festus. Nobody guessed I knew him. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But we did.
Yeah. Yes.
And so for like 5 or 6 years, they could not touch that building.
Love it.
So even though I didn't win, we won something.
Exactly.
For the community, and that was great. That was a great feeling.
Amazing.
And we also ran a campaign about double yellow lines.
That
was just
very
crazy, right?
Stuff.
It was amazing. I mean, okay, there was nothing you could do about, and I got Eric Pickles involved because he was the Secretary of State at the time, and it was really good. I mean, just fancy running the parliamentary election campaign on protecting community assets and double yellow lines.
Yeah, I mean, at least you got to
keep it local. Keep it local.
The people want.
It drove them mad. They knew well, Festus, as a member of parliament, what do you have to do with double yellow lines? The people want to hear about that, so we did it.
Why not?
Can I ask, why did you actually become a Conservative? What made you pick the Conservatives?
It shouldn't have been. It was pure accident, but I think it worked out very well for me. Coming from Nigeria, growing up in East London, everybody voted Labour. That was the thing. Yeah. And my father wanted me to vote Labour when I turned 18. I didn't really want to do that, so we had to negotiate.
Okay.
So I think I voted for the Christian, whatever they call themselves, in New at the time. I mean, they weren't going to win. Yeah. So I said, what? I'm never going to talk to my dad about which one I'm going to vote ever again in my life.
Yeah.
Great man, absolutely great man. He's my idol. He sadly passed away now, and I still miss him a lot. But there was a guy in my church who called David Rutley. David wanted to become the member of parliament for, I think it was Macclesfield. Several years. He lost his seat, unfortunately, last year. And I said, well, Festus, you're a smart guy, consider joining the Conservative Party when you move out of London, because I had to move out of London because I couldn't afford to buy live anywhere in the city, like many people at the moment. So when I got to Milton Keynes, I then called. I said I was a bit naughty.
Okay.
So I called the local Labour.
Sorry.
I called the local Labour office.
Yeah.
They didn't answer the phone.
Right.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to call the Conservative, like David said. So I called the Conservative office. A lady called Evelyn Joy answered the phone first time.
There you go.
She told me to come in. I came to the office in Winslow. Within a week, she had me stuffing envelopes, printing out thousands of leaflets, and the rest is history.
There you go. You
That's
see,
it.
All
pick
of our
up
phone
the
calls.
phone.
So if
Pick
you're a
up the
chairman of
phone.
an association, answer the bloody phone. You never know. You might end up with a Festus in your hand.
There you go.
That's not a good idea, but answer the phone. And it just goes to show that as a party, we've got to do a lot better
Yes.
with how well we deal with people who want to join our party. I mean, there's still associations now where people join.
Yeah.
Nobody contacts them.
Yeah.
True.
It's true.
And when I was chairman, my experience really influenced the way that I dealt with membership, and we increased membership to the highest ever been in that area at the time.
That's so good.
Because anyone comes through on VoteSource, pick up the phone. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah.
Can we have some more money? No, just kidding. But
No,
you know,
it's true.
And help.
and help, of course.
The
But why do people join the political parties? Because they are passionate.
Exactly.
They want to give them something to do.
Get involved.
Yeah, they want to get involved.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
So
true. I actually went to a policy reform session the other day, and there was a guy who was a member but didn't get involved, and he was just like, I feel like things like this are really fun, and we need to do, like, the party needs to do more fun things that I will come and bring friends.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's something we might have forgotten how to do.
Yeah, the
a little bit.
social
The social element,
because
yeah.
some people are looking for that. They want people that have similar views and points of view.
Yes.
And they can get involved and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
It's fun.
It is
It
fun.
can be.
Yeah,
It can be a lot of work too.
It can be a lot of work. Yes.
But yeah, for Festus, you stood, so you stood in a lovely, safe, unwinnable seat. So, you know, you were living the dream, feet up, kick back. And then you had the Mid Beds by-election in 2023. It was a very different story. So with that, I don't know if everyone remembers, but you were taking on over from the very notorious Nadine Dorries. And I campaigned a lot in that collection because it was a very long election. And I'm going to say, so obviously Nadine, she refused to resign officially because she was waiting to hear back about why she hadn't got that peerage that she thought she should get.
Ouch.
So you had one of the longest campaigns. It ran from June to October. Or was it even longer? It felt like longer. So how was that for you? Obviously, it must have been pretty grueling.
I was informed by a very well-known psichologist in the party that the Mid Bedfordshire by-election was the longest by-election that he can remember in decades. Decades. I mean, going back to probably the 40s and 50s. That was because it went on for about 4.5 months. And you know, look, I can look back. You know, be upset or be angry or point fingers at this person or that person. You're not get on with Nadine. I get on with everybody. Me, you know. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 people I don't really like. But most people I get on with, whether they're Labour, Conservatives, you know, Lib Dem, doesn't really bother me.
Lib Dem, God.
I get on with everybody. You know, I'm just kind of that kind of guy. I'm not massively dogmatic about things. But that was probably the most pressurized experience I've ever had in my life. Apart from seeing my father die.
Wow.
Because the level of media scrutiny on your life, the level of, I mean, the army of people who turned up from all over the place for all political parties. I mean, there was even an incident where a Labour and the Lib Dem campaign team were fighting each other on the streets. I mean, they really wanted that badly, and I knew it. But ultimately, what cost us, you know, reform got so many votes, and I lost by the same amount of votes.
Wow.
But one thing I must say about that election, which I think must be clarified, there's this rumor that I, you know, was a spoil sport, and I did not want to say, you know, congratulate the which is totally nonsense. I think I am the first ever election candidate that actually literally hugged the winning
you
candidate.
are a hugger. I think.
Did I hug you?
You did.
Oh,
he's a hugger, guys.
Yeah, true.
I am a hugger guy. I really actually I am. I actually hugged him in front of. I mean, all the media was there.
Yeah.
Forget about Tamworth.
Right.
Everybody was in Mid Beds for obvious reason. I think the stakes were a bit high because of, you know, my friend Nadine. But in front of everyone, I hugged him.
Right.
And I was the first to congratulate him. once he was declared as the winner. I wasn't at the count.
Right.
For different reasons, but I was there on the stage when the announcement was made, and I hugged him and I congratulated him, and and that was it.
Yeah.
But somehow it became news that I was not there.
Oh wow.
They gotta make a story.
Yes, they did. And in fact, it got even better. 2 days later, I was invited by Kemi and some other MPs to come to Parliament just for whatever. So I came.
Yeah.
And all these MPs were there, and obviously I had been seeing many of these people the previous 4 months. It was such an emotional thing. I still feel like I let everybody down.
No,
not
I don't know what, because you feel that way. Many people who have lost elections feel that way. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I feel like I let everybody down. I didn't want to come to work so hard, but it was the opposite feeling that those MPs gave me. Penny, Kemi, Rob, everybody was just so amazing. Greg Hands. And we got to the strangers bar after the bit in Kemi's office, and guess what I found? The Labour MP from Mid Beds.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Hug him.
Yes. I went up to him. His girlfriend was there. I shook his hand, gave him a big hug, asked how things was going.
Yeah.
We had a good chat. And Harry Cole, the Sun political chief editor at the time, I think he's gone to the US now.
Yeah.
He saw us and he came up and like, well, Festus, I think this might be the future of political relations in Britain if you guys have the kind of love fest.
Yes.
And then he tweeted it, and it kind of, a lot of people kind of like that. But this idea that I didn't, I was angry and I was bitten, nonsense.
I mean, they like to
Fake
sort
news.
of drive everyone.
There's no need for that. There's no need. Of course, there's a serious element to politics, but once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
We've got to be grown up, we've got to be mature, and then move on to the next one.
True.
Absolutely. So, oh gosh, took me down like a real memory lane.
Yeah.
Yes.
So an emotional roller coaster for us.
I know. But look, trust me, I went there. But you learn from these things.
Yes.
You learn things that you should do. You learn what you should not do. You learn a lot more about campaigning, because I mean that was a very, very intense, a very strategic campaign plan. There's no way you can go through that and not be a much better campaign,
right?
Without question.
True. Yeah.
Without question.
True.
Good
Yeah.
training.
And so I think I'm a lot better now for any other election I choose to stand for in the future. But yeah.
Well, actually, we might ask you about that.
Oh no! I did not. Can you edit that one out? Edit that bit out.
It's fine.
So Festus, you were the perfect fit for the Mid Beds by-election, as you were really well known as the Police and Crime Commissioner for the county. What are you most proud of as your time as the Police and Crime Commissioner?
I was very proud of the fact that I was one of the only few, if not the only, police and crime commissioner in the entire country that improved retention of police officers. People don't realize how difficult it is and how bad it is. We are losing officers. I mean, in places like the Met, really, really bad. They are losing a lot of officers there, and we can talk about some of the issues here. And so I found out that Bedfordshire was the worst in the country out of 43 police forces in how well we were retaining police officers, especially new recruits.
Yeah.
Without going into too much details, I had to make sure that was the strategic priority for the chief constable. It took a long time, and me constantly challenging and pushing and asking questions, not just of the police chiefs, but also the frontline officers, and really making sure things were changing on the ground.
Yeah.
And we moved from being bottom of the pile to, I think, being mid-table. So I think the biggest improvement of any police force in the country for retention.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's quite the achievement.
That's amazing.
That
So
is
I'm really proud. It's not the kind of stuff that's sexy that's going to get you headlines, apart from obviously, exceeding my target for recruitment every single year.
Yeah.
As a police and crime commissioner, I'm much more proud of the retention, because if you want to have a safer community, you've got to have the people to do the job.
Absolutely.
So recruiting people is not just enough.
Yeah.
But if you're not keeping them,
Exactly.
what is the point?
No point. And it just costs money for nothing.
That is a great point. So what I actually did, one of the things that I did was to ask the force leadership to provide me a breakdown of how much it costs every time a new recruit leaves us in the first year, the second year, and the third year.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't want to go into details about what the figures. It was eye-watering.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, so fine, you've got the operational responsibility. Why should I keep going to taxpayers to increase the police precept if you're losing officers hand over fist?
Yeah.
So if you want me to give you more money next year, I need to see some action on this particular
right.
regard.
Yeah, 100%.
And in any kind of environment, what you make a priority, what you measure is what gets done.
What were the sort of things that police officers were sort of leaving? What were the reasons?
The reasons.
And how did you change that?
Good question. Morale is an issue.
Yeah.
Opportunity to train
Yeah.
and to advance. That's another thing. Trauma.
Yes.
The mental health is a big one. And I'm very, very big on talking therapy and people able to get things off their chest, and especially those who experience trauma. I wrote an article on my website not long ago showing that the average police officer over their career of say 20 to 30 years would experience about 400 to 600 traumatic incidents over their career. The average person, do you want to know how much they'll face?
I know 3. 50?
About 2 or 3 in their lifetime.
Yeah. Gosh, that's crazy.
In their lifetime. So you could be I've seen stuff as a special constable. So before I became a police and crime commissioner, I was a special constable, so frontline police officer in a place like Luton, which is very much similar to any borough in London.
Yeah.
Luton keeps us very, very busy. I saw someone with their head smashed open.
Yeah, horrible.
Go to smash doors of a pedophile and actually saw the stuff on their.
Horrible.
I had to go and search their car. You could be going to someone who's, taking their life, from suicide and bit all over the place, to a neighbor arguing over a dog poo on their front garden. Yeah, people will
very, very, very.
And then you've got to go home to your family and to your kids.
Yeah, horrible.
And then the following day, you could have a repeat of the same. During COVID, people don't tell you this. During COVID, a lot of people took their own lives.
Yeah, wow.
And the police constantly were going to those kind of, and after a while, it builds up.
Yeah, it takes it.
And then if you're not being supported by your organization,
you just want to quit.
You just leave. So one thing I really focused on was I invested a lot in external counseling service for police officers. Even though there was an internal counseling service to occupational health, the officer weren't using it.
Yeah. So
I then said to a superintendent, look, you're telling me that this is a waste of public money. I said, okay, why is that? She said, well, we've already got occupational health in house. Well, so tell me, how many people are using it?
Yeah.
What is the uptake? Well, we're still working on it, Commissioner. I said, look, I know this from when I was a special constable. I speak with the officers. I still speak with them. They're not getting supported. Anyway, I'm the police and crime commissioner. Your boss's boss answers to me, so we probably don't should be having this conversation.
Not laid out negotiation.
I was happy to have the conversation, but it got to a point where I had to say, look, you know what? Stay in your lane and I'll stay in mine. We're good. But within a year, that external counseling service was oversubscribed.
Wow, amazing.
So I had to double the funding the following year.
Yeah, amazing. Wow. But why did they want to go to the external one rather than the internal one? What was what made that?
It will usually be in the police building.
Okay, so
officers don't want to be seen going into the room of occupational. Okay, and if you have an indication on your record that you're getting mental health support, sometimes that can go against you in policing. When it comes to promotion, or going certain units.
Fair enough.
So some of them, they just say, I just keep quiet because I don't want anybody to know that I'm struggling. And if you have to go to wait on the NHS, well,
we know what good luck.
Yes, that's right.
Terrible.
Exactly. So some just leave.
Well, that's cool.
It's a real eye-opener. Thank you.
But it's a very easy, simple thing that could be done. With the right kind of experience and mindset to be able to do that. But also the ability to be able to push back against those in uniforms. Look, thank you very much for your suggestion and for your views. We're going to do this anyway, and then let's exchange notes in about 12 months' time. I never heard from that. I never heard back from that.
It works. But I think it also helps the fact that you were a serving officer, police officer, because then you have hands-on experience. Because there are, I think, a lot of people in the office jobs or up the ranks that maybe haven't got the hands-on experience, and so therefore they're not talking from a place of authority.
You're absolutely. And I think the other challenge is that so like a mayor in London who is the police and crime commissioner, other mayors who've got that PCC role, and police and crime commissioners, sometimes we differ too much. We defer too much to the chief constables of the Met Commissioner because they are operationally independent. They know what they're doing. And so you just give them too much latitude to just make decisions.
Yeah.
But sometimes you've got to be able to push back and say, no, you know, yes, that's your responsibility, but we've got to, there's a problem here.
Yeah.
And I think my experience obviously shaped my ability, and I was very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
The chief constable that I work with, we got on extremely well. We were very much on the same page. And even if we weren't, we worked very well together to kind of figure out differences.
Yeah.
There was a problem. I can't tell you how to fix it, but it needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And we got things done that way.
I have another question. You mentioned the mayor, obviously, Sadiq Khan, and crime. Crime is such an issue in London right now. What would, if you were to be, you know, either whispering in Sadiq's ear or mayor for a year or whatever, what would you do to sort of bring down crime and to sort of make it just a safer environment?
I actually met him once a long time ago, and he was very cool to me. He probably thought I was a Labor person.
That might be wrong.
When I did this, I was tugging his head, like this kind of my shoulder. No, I mean, he was cool. He was cool with me. What I would say is this, right? People do not. So policing is a very hierarchical environment. Okay, very structured. Police officers really do pay attention to what their leadership say.
Yeah.
And what they don't say.
Yeah.
Whether they are in uniform or they're not uniform. So when you're a mayor or police and crime commissioner, you have got some responsibility for policing in your area. So even though you do not have an operational responsibility, you do have a moral responsibility towards your officers. And when the officers think that you do not have their back, it makes things very, very difficult for their operational leaders. Because the operational leaders was appointed by the mayor. So if you don't have our back and we constantly feel like you're attacking us every time something goes wrong, which they will inevitably do,
100%.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And one thing I'll probably say to him is that he needs to be a little bit more blatantly supportive of the officers that he's paying for.
Yeah.
Because as the mayor, he's the budget holder for policing.
Yeah.
That is something that I would definitely say to him. And I would say, look, you know, man, be a little bit less political.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep blaming the previous government for everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes shit happens. I mean, things. Sometimes things happen. Sometimes things happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to blame a political party for everything that goes. Take some responsibility, man.
Yeah.
And
own it.
He's been around for a very long time. That's the thing.
Oh,
at some point,
has he? Has he? You never funk that.
I mean,
so with mayors and police and crime commissioners, so Labour are bringing in their English devolution bill, right? So we're going to have a lot more mayors and no more police and crime commissioners, pretty much where there is a mayor. What do you think about that? Do you think that risks the police and crime commissioner? Like, because you said earlier, there's that, it's quite good that you have a police and crime commissioner who has their own remit as opposed to a mayor who's kind of overseeing
everything.
Both.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to kind of change the dynamic? Is it a bit of a risky move, or do you think it's a good thing?
Given the way some of the mayoralty is working out for Labour at the moment, they might probably want to not do that, given what happened in Lincolnshire. So there could be a problem for them. But also the fact that the last PCC election, they now won so many PCC elections that about 50% of police and crime commissioners now are Labour police and crime commissioners, because historically it's just been mostly conservatives that get returned. So they might be kind of rowing back a little bit on that now. I of course, you know, those who are mayors taking on the role of policing and crime commissioner, it potentially would water the responsibility. It doesn't work out great.
Yeah.
Whether it's in Birmingham, in Manchester, in West Midlands, or in London. Policing is such a massive area of focus. And when you've got housing, you've got transportation, you've got infrastructure, you've got all the kind of things to have policing, which in London is probably about almost a quarter of the the mayor's budget. That's a lot to add to the mix.
Yeah.
But if the mayor is good, it should not be undoable.
That's a problem, isn't it?
And if the deputy mayor for policing is good, it makes it a little bit easier. The problem is when you have people who just think about everything in terms of politics.
Yes.
Then you have a problem.
Now, Festus, I've noticed from your profile that you're tapping into your London roots. Do you have your eyes on the London Mayoralty Prize? Can we get an exclusive?
Oh,
you know, the funny you say that. I mean, I've had people asking this all the time, but I was in Nottingham just last weekend. No, Northampton last weekend.
Right.
And I go all over the. I was in Cambridgeshire before that, and Bedfordshire. I don't know what I just happen to spend a lot more time in London now because my office is in King's Cross.
Right.
You know, I'm helping out one of my friends at his people referral unit in Waltham Cross.
Nice.
So it's just, why are you smiling at me? I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest.
Okay.
But of course, who would not want to be the mayor of, in my opinion, the greatest city in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, I go to New York quite a bit. You know, it's nice there. But there is a vibe in London.
Yes. Yes.
There's a meeting of the world.
Yeah.
In London, you don't get anywhere else.
So
right.
That's a no, right?
I mean, wouldn't you?
Yes, yes.
So,
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it would be one of the best jobs in politics.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I went for an executive role, like a police and crime commissioner, rather than standing for parliament in 2019. Because, you know, my experience in business is, you know, I'm good at making decisions, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not about my political career.
No, don't say that.
About what I've done in the past, you know, and I just love to get things done rather than just yap, and then voting forever. But nothing wrong being an MP, by the way. You know, it's
a tough job.
It's all about the green benches, babes.
I know, and you guys would make a fantastic look. I think any of us would be good, you know, on the green benches. Yeah. But I think in terms of the fact that you actually get things done as a mayor or police and crime commissioner, you have a budget, you set strategy, you then deal with holding people accountable. I mean, I think those kind of fit in a lot better with my core skill sets and background.
Yeah.
But look, MPs do a fantastic job as well, and I wouldn't knock any of them. I mean, heck, I've tried twice.
I still feel we didn't get an answer.
I think you've heard it here first, guys.
You're going to put your hat in, come on, put your hat in the ring.
Well, there hasn't been any, they haven't opened the...
not yet.
No,
not yet.
Yeah.
You know, if you do it, then I'll do it.
There we go.
If you do it, then I'll do it.
Okay, we've got two candidates right here.
London accounts for a massive amount of the economy of Britain.
It does.
And Manchester as well. And I think Andy Burnham is doing a pretty decent job in some cases.
Andy Burnham's not bad.
You know, he's doing a pretty decent job. I mean, I can see why Keir Starmer would not want him anywhere near Westminster.
Yeah, totally.
For his job. You can see how a good mayor like Andy Street as well. He was brilliant. He was brilliant.
So good.
You can see how a good mayor who's got their finger on the pulse, who are just non-party political, can actually get things done.
Yeah. And cares about all Londoners.
And it makes a difference. It really does make a difference. And so I don't know if I've answered your question there, but
I think you have.
If ever I was to be a mayor, you know, Andy Street, a combination of Andy Street, Andy Burnham and our man in Teesside, you know, they will be a good combination.
It's a good combo.
They're good. They're Trinity.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Festus, moving on. From London. So we often hear, so you are an entrepreneur. You're also... I still
can't believe you went about me posting something about London. I mean, like, really, who does that? You're really stalking me, man. Come on. Are you really stalking me? You didn't say anything about Nottingham when I was in Cambridgeshire or Northampton. Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
I'm gonna have to be so conscious now by anything about London now. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so look. So we often hear about how hard it is to be a politician and a parent. But this is usually from a female perspective. What is it like being a single dad, a politician, and an entrepreneur? How do you balance it all?
It's not easy. You know, of course, like many people, I've had relationships that did not work out. You know, of course, nobody sets out, you know, get married and then say, you know, things then dissolve. I mean, maybe some people do, but that's just not me. But things happen, you know, but you have to move on. But having full custody of, you know, young children for so long, for the best part of about 15 years, and they're all doing extremely well now, I've had to sacrifice a lot, an awful lot. You know, business deals have had to be put on the side because I'm very big on families. That means an awful lot to me, probably because of the way that I was raised by my parents. You know, they were amazing. And the family dynamic that I find myself in, the kids did not ask for that. Right. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
So why should I do anything that will potentially impair their upbringing? So I've had to sacrifice an awful lot for them, you know, and now they're getting old, now they're much older. I think I'm reaping the benefits of that because they're just amazing high-flying. Yeah. They're amazing high-flying kids. Right. They're doing extremely well. I'm so proud of them. But you know, it could have been very different. Yeah. You know, one of them nearly got excluded from school when he was younger, and this is probably why, as a police and crime commissioner, in some of the areas that I'm very interested in, I know what it takes to get a young person back on track.
Yeah.
A lot of tears.
Yes.
A lot of honesty, and a lot of openness to support.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to bury your head in the sand and hope things will go away. Yeah. They do not go away unless you deal with them. And it's also a bit of luck, and as a Christian, a lot of prayer as well. And I mean, this kid now, who is an absolute high flyer in the organization that he's working in, doing his degree apprenticeship, thanks to a Tory government, doing his degree apprenticeship, you would never think this was the same kid like 6 years ago.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah.
And so my message to parents, whenever I'm talking with some who are just about to just give up, the son has been in and out of prison, and they're trying their best. I say to them, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. You know, you never know how your child will turn up tomorrow. Yeah. But if you let go of them now, if you stop loving them, if you stop giving them the time, if you stop going to their parents' evening or their football or whatever it is that they're doing, you're gonna lose them for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's no guarantee that by you being a great parent now, then things still won't go wrong. Of course, they're good parents whose kids to end up doing stupid stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? That happens all the time. I saw it.
Yeah.
But the one sure way of you being guaranteed that things will probably go wrong is if you just give up on your kids.
Yeah.
Just keep loving them, keep being there for them, keep supporting them. And if you have to do a little bit less hours at work, then that's what you got to do. Yeah. They're not going to stay kids forever.
No, that's true.
So the time that you're losing from your kids to make extra money, one day there will be a payback for that. And also, you know, there's this myth that, you know, Black men, absent fathers, don't care. Maybe that is the case or not, but I'm the absolute opposite of that, you know, and there are many Black men who are amazing fathers.
Absolutely.
And they are there for their kids. They're doing a fantastic job. But I do know what the data says. Yeah. I get it. But it's not always the same everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something Kemi's pushing, the family, parenting. But as conservatives, we always know that like that family unit is the most important thing. Parental responsibility is the most.
You know, it's not a patronizing thing.
No, absolutely.
To say to parents, look, your number one priority literally is your children, if you have them, you know, and it is not the job of the state to raise your kids.
Absolutely.
In fact, it's not even the job of the school to teach your kids. You know, it's not the job of, you know, politicians it's not your job.
Yeah.
Is your kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You brought them into the world.
Exactly.
Now
they're mini
now where the government I think has an important role to play, and I feel strongly about this, is, you know, there's some people who are parents who were never parented properly themselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right. I saw this when I was mentoring kids in prison in Milton Keynes, not in London. Right. And so a program for young people who had kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about 14, 15-year-old children who had kids.
Yeah.
And the program was to help them to be able to co-parent with the mother of the children when they get released.
Yeah.
But many of these kids, honestly, what their mindset was, it was totally wrong. But then when you look into their background, they had very dysfunctional homes.
Right.
So where do those kind of parents go for support?
Exactly.
And now this is where the state can come in and make sure that there's the right kind of support in place for parents who are struggling with, you know, their children, not in a patronizing way, but sometimes it's just to encourage parents. Look, you know what?
Safety net.
Your child is just going through a phase. The fact that he's dragging their trousers below his bottom, and he's listening to grime music, he's listening to all kind of music. It doesn't mean he's a criminal.
He can be saved.
It doesn't mean but he's just, it's okay. He's cool. Don't panic. Don't call the police, you know, just because you see him listening to some kind of, you know, music you don't quite understand. It's cool. You know, if we can have this kind of safe landing spots for parents,
that kind
of helps. But some parents, I think they just kind of freak out.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff they're reading about in the news, and then it just spirals down from there.
Yeah. So true. So true. Well, actually, it brings me to another point, and Laura and I talk about this. So you're a Christian.
Good. I want to know what you guys talk about. I want to know. What you talk about?
We talk about everything.
Okay, I don't want to know about everything. Just this part. Just this part. Just this part.
So we do talk about Christianity and whether this is still a Christian country, and you are a Christian, and Festus. I have a kind of double-edged question. Do you think the UK is still a Christian country? And do you think that the rise in young Christians in the UK could see a new wave of conservatism?
That's a good question. That's a very good one. I mean, you guys have been on fire today.
Thank you. So have you.
No, I'm just normally like this. Look, without question, and again, I wrote a piece about this, the history of Britain, to its institutions, even to its architecture, to its laws, to its customs, Christianity is, the Christian faith is in the DNA of that. You cannot take that away no matter what you do. Even in Parliament, even if some MPs want to do away with prayer, whatever it is, the very essence of what we do in Britain has got Christian underpinnings. You cannot remove that from it. Even our political system, the theories that kind of underpinned it, from many centuries ago, there is that kind of Christian ethos behind that. Is Britain a Christian country? I can't say it is based on the evidence, but it is a country that is underpinned by the Christian faith. And I think trying to disregard that would be a mistake, in my opinion. Does this take away from Britain being an open, welcoming society that embraces Judaism, Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, whatever, or even atheism? Of course not. Of course, I actually love going to mosque for the last 12 years. I go to a mosque, to a masjid every Ramadan.
Oh, that's sweet.
And Eid. And in fact, one of the best sermons I've ever heard in my life was by an imam at a masjid in Wolverton in Milton Keynes. During Eid, it was so touching, and it still stuck with me. It was about charity and kindness and giving. Even though I've heard similar things in the church, many, but this one just seemed to resonate with me that time. But yes, Britain is underpinned by the Christian faith. And I think we should be very proud of that. Very proud of that. And I definitely am. And I'm very public about my Christian faith. It takes nothing away from my respect and love of Islam, of Judaism, or Hinduism, or Sikhism, or any other, even people who don't believe in any kind of faith at all. It doesn't have to be an either or.
I think that's the right argument to make as well.
I mean, why should it be? Why should it be? Actually, because I was born in Nigeria, it's 50-50 Muslim Christian, generally speaking. We had to learn the azan, which is the call to prayer in Islam. We had to memorize that in assembly.
Oh, wow.
And the Muslim kids also had to learn the Lord's Prayer.
Nice.
But it was cool. There was no problem. We all ate together during Eid. They all celebrate Christmas with us. It's never been a problem for me.
That's the thing. Being able to celebrate your faith or whatever, however you see fit. But it's when sometimes it seems it's not all equal, particularly in the UK at the moment. So there's like a celebration for many religious festivals, but they seem to sort of water down Christianity. Christian celebration.
When you have a prime minister that is being interviewed and that says we don't do God.
Wow.
Remember who said that? Tony Blair.
God.
Based on I think it was advice that he was given by Alistair Campbell. And then as it happened, Tony Blair then became a practicing Catholic. But anyway, after he left office, it makes me see, what is it about politicians that makes them feel they have to distance themselves from faith or from God? The Muslim politicians don't do that. They're very proud of their Islamic beliefs, and quite rightly so. Why is it that Christian politicians feel they can't talk about God or their faith? I think it's just mad, but that's just not me. I'm very proud of who I am and what I believe in, but I have the absolute respect and acceptance of other people's beliefs or none.
I love that.
Yeah.
It really isn't. Why? It's not a big deal.
It's true. And I think we've lost a bit of that common sense.
Yeah.
In like post-COVID, I think people have kind of gone
Lost
into
the
their
plot.
silos.
Kind of COVID kind of messed up
I think
people's
everyone's
heads.
got a bit mad.
I don't know. I'm perfectly fine. Thank you very much. I'm very fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It's true.
Well, Festus, you are an entrepreneur. And you were very fortunate or very smart in the sense that you applied to get a grant from the Prince's Trust when you were a young buck.
I'm still young.
Sorry.
Look at the grey, the grandeur. Yes.
How did that impact your life, first of all? And how can we encourage more people, not just young people, but more people into entrepreneurship, especially when access to capital post Rachel Reeves's budget is incredibly hard?
If I was in charge of this country, I would want to encourage every young person to at least try their hands at some kind of a business.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's just selling lemonade,
Yeah.
you know, the school fete or school, whatever it is. Just try your hands at business for a short period of time and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because for me, starting when I was 16 years old, when I was in school, and that failed, and then another one when I was about 18, and that failed, and then I was playing professional basketball at the time as well, and stopped playing that after a while. And then another business when I was 23 years old, which then grew from 4 employees to 60 in about 10 years.
Wow.
All of those failures really built in me an element of resilience.
Yeah.
I mean, I was employing people old enough to be my dad when I was 23.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Right? You learn certain things that you would never learn in the school.
Yeah.
You learn how to deal with people. You learn how to deal with challenges. You learn how to make decisions.
Yeah.
You learn how to work through things in a very systematic way. But most importantly, you learn about people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest deficiencies we have in the world today is that the people skills are lost.
Yeah.
And there are many people who are very book smart, but they're very people dumb.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
And that kind of emotional intelligence gets lost. And so by me being in a business where I actually employ people rather than, you know, just machines, I developed some skills that have done me very well. Can I just do a quick story about how my business started?
Yeah, go
Yes,
for it.
please.
It's a bit sad, but there's a good ending to it.
Okay.
Because there's always a good ending with Festus,
Get
right?
the tears ready.
So when I was about 23 and I was going to start this business, I had a contract letter from one of my clients at the time. Right, first we want to start this contract in about 2 months' time. Okay, great. I'll go to the banks, get my business plan together, and I'll only need £2,000 to deal with the payroll cost until my clients start paying me 28 days later. So it's just a bridging funding effectively to cover operating costs. I went to about 2 or 3 banks and they all pretty much said no, which was a bit upsetting. But I had a bank that I went to in the city of London. I won't say which bank it is. And I dressed up, you know, nice and sharp, as I always do. Man, I was so full of myself, man. I have matured since then. So I went to this bank, and this lady sat in front of me, and she looked at my business plan, the cash flow forecast, and the whole lot. And she said, "Okay, wait here, Mr. Akinbusoye. We'll come back to you in a few moments." She went away, and she came back like what seemed like forever. And she said, "I'm sorry, Festus, we can't help you. We don't do business with people from your postcode."
Wow.
Whoa.
We don't do business with people from your postcode.
Wow.
I was not expecting
Now that could have meant 2 things looking back now, but at the time, I was just a kid. I did not really know what they meant. Obviously, I was still living in my dad's council flat. And I was so heartbroken by that. If they just said no, that would have been better.
Yeah.
But it was that we don't do business with people from your postcode. And I was like, what's wrong with my postcode?
Yeah.
And obviously now I kind of know. So I got home and my dad, you know, he's a cleaner. He had 3 cleaning jobs. His morning cleaning job was at Burton's Menswear in Ilford. His day job was as a porter, glorified cleaner. But anyway, in Tower Hamlets Council, that was his day job. And then his evening job was cleaning McDonald's in Canning Town. In fact, my dad was the first cleaner at the McDonald's in Canning Town on Barking Road.
There we go.
He said he came home so proud about that, and I was like, "Dad, another cleaning job for real?
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell my friends what my father does."
Hard worker.
But yeah, he was. And Dad said to me, "Festus, you can't give up.
Yeah.
You know, you have got to, if you believe in yourself, you've got to back yourself. And I believe in you. I'm gonna borrow some money from my credit card." I didn't even know what a credit card was at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
But the way he said it, I knew that he was going to have to pay the money back.
Yeah.
And I said, Dad, don't worry about this. Let me check in the yellow pages. And I'll just go into the business section and see whatever if there's another bank. And there was this advert by the Prince's Trust.
Yes.
If you remember the yellow pages.
I do.
Like the Google of our time.
Yes.
Very clunky one, but very yellow too. And I came across the Prince's Trust. I gave them a call. To cut a long story short, I went to meet this lady there, and she took me to the panel where there were about 7 people from different walks of life from the city, volunteers to assess all the different applicants who wanted the loan from the Prince's Trust. They looked at mine. I had an interview with them, and I was leaving, and this lady called me.
Yeah.
And she said, Festus, you won't believe what's just happened. I'm like, okay, what is it now? what's the matter? What's the problem? You are the first person that's come before this panel that's got a unanimous backing.
Oh, wow.
That.
Oh, that's lovely.
So good.
So I got a £2,000, but where it gets even better was what the Prince Trust do. They give you a business mentor.
Yes.
But they want to get their money back.
Yeah, of course.
So you don't run away with their money. But that was never on the cards for me anyway. So they gave me this guy called James Tolbert. James turned out to be an executive coach to CEOs in the City of London.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah.
So a kid from a Canning Town council estate where I would never in a billion years ever meet someone like James.
Yeah.
The Prince Trust brought us together. Till today, 20-something years later, we're still friends.
I love that.
I mean, I paid them the money back in like, in no time with the interest. But yeah, so I became a bit of support and ambassador for the Prince's Trust, because without that, I don't know where I would have been. And then moving to Milton Keynes, because I couldn't buy a house in London when I started their business, I became, I was volunteering for them as well. And yeah, that was how the business got started. So I would encourage every young person, give it a go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you get turned back, don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. And it's okay to start small.
Yeah.
Yes.
We can't all be like Elon Musk,
Yes.
the sensible Elon Musk,
Yes,
straight away.
exactly.
But it's okay to start small.
Yeah.
And then things grow over time.
I love that. That's really good advice for young people, and probably a good place to end it.
Absolutely. Well, Festus, thank you so much for joining us.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Festus, everybody. So yes, don't forget Monday middays mod cons. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, guys.